God is good?
All the time.
All the time?
God is good, and that is His nature. Wow.
All right, thank you very much. So, May was Africa Month, and today we are celebrating World Refugee Day. So we, as a parish, we decided to combine these 2 days, and then we celebrate it in a special way. And in celebrating these 2 days, we have invited some activists from an organization called KAAX, K-A-A-X. We have invited Nigel and Trish to come and speak to us under the theme Africa for Africans. So Nigel, a warm welcome to you. Can we give him a round of applause?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Nigel Brankin, and I'm a social worker, a pastor, and an activist. And I've devoted the last 30 years of my life to standing with those on the margins, to those and fighting with those who are oppressed. And today I'm honored to stand before you on behalf of Kopanang Africa Against Xenophobia as we celebrate Africa Month, Africa Day, and World Refugee Day. It's under the theme this year, Africa for Africans. No discrimination for our brothers and sisters from Africa. No discrimination for our brothers and sisters from Africa. Can we say that together? No discrimination for our brothers and sisters from Africa. Amen.
Amen.
So I wanted to share a deeply personal story, a heart-wrenching story, about a man who became a friend of mine, whose name was Dido Mbo Abala. He was from the Congo, came to South Africa seeking refuge here, and in 2017 there were xenophobic attacks that took place in Troyville in Johannesburg, where he was a cobbler fixing and repairing shoes. And during that time a mob chased him, and he ran and he jumped over the fence or the wall of somebody's house, and he ran to the door and he knocked on the door and he said, "Help, help, help." And instead of coming to him and helping him, the man inside the house instead set his dogs on him for 3 hours. And I've got a poem that tells a bit of the story of what happened. But after this event, Dido came to stay with us, with Trish and I. We helped him to set up a business in Orange Grove in Louis Botha. And in, I think it was February or March 2022, Operation Dudula came to the streets and tried to close down the businesses in Orange Grove. And when he was doing that, we got involved in standing with him and protecting another woman whose name was Tandi from Zimbabwe. And they knocked over her mini stand, and we ended up pressing charges against Operation Dudula. And during that time, Operation Dudula started attacking our own family because we were standing with foreigners. And so our family had to go into hiding. And by that time, we had organized a place for Dido to stay. And we fled literally within 5 minutes. The police had told us they're coming to our house now, and we fled. And during that 2.5 weeks, Dido turned to alcohol, and he unfortunately had a stroke during that time and passed away. And so I want to read to you a poem that a friend of mine, Stephen Faulkner, wrote. Stephen was there when Dido was being attacked by the dogs. He was the next door neighbor, and he tried to help. Stephen's poem is called A Poem About Watching a Human Being Purposefully Savaged by 2 Dogs. It was late. I heard noises. I went to see. Something I wish I had not. I watched. I shouted. I cajoled. I cursed, I threatened for 3 hours, and I failed to stop them. The dogs continued. The owner encouraged them, punished them to be more aggressive, to do more. And I failed to stop them. When he fell silent, the dogs were urged to continue. He lost an eye, an ear. Part of his jawbone was dragged through his cheek. The police came eventually. They muttered. One went into the yard. They glanced down at him. They returned. They shrugged, did nothing. They left. Much later, the ambulance came. Paramedics, deeply concerned, unsure about lifting him in one piece onto the stretcher. His ripped and tattered clothes held him together. The medical report revealed 56 deep bites, countless others into muscles, vital organs, every limb. He raised his arms. He had raised his arms for protection. His knuckles and fingers and elbows were chewed raw to bare bone. In ICU, they rebuilt his face. They tended to his multiple infections. They stitched and patched gaping holes in arms, torso, legs, and thighs, rejoined a torn scalp. He remained oblivious in an induced coma for 3 months to avoid the pain of reconstruction and the nightmares. He awoke not knowing where he was, who he was, what was next, but he was ever grateful. Pain came later, when his appearance frightened his children, including his own. He went back, cobbling on the streets, in abject poverty. It was always close by. No one wanted shoe repairs, or bought sweets, or single cigarettes from someone so disfigured. The state brought the charges. They promised an open and shut case. The evidence was compelling, irrefutable. The horrific photographs, eyewitnesses, a searing medical report, prior convictions, 16 court appearances, attended every one. Justice, he said quietly, is all I want. The magistrate dismissed the case, barely considered the facts, and another damaged murderer ran free among us, gloating, mocking, triumphant, ready to do more harm. Life's hard for a refugee without refuge. Afterwards, he relied on others, many as poor as himself, and alcohol. But he could still smile, a beautiful smile. He was grateful for whatever little was offered. Then he passed. The certificate whispered of a stroke. Too many displaced particles, loosened fragments of himself, circulating in the bloodstream. No longer attempted murder. as blinding prejudice stakes its way into the fearful lives of the vulnerable, polluting the institutions designed to protect, empowering the bully in a t-shirt, popularizing ministers desperate to blame and to distract. We are all diminished, made less human. We had coffee often after wasted court visits. He asked me once, did I say anything when I was being attacked? Yes, I said. Before you lost consciousness, you called repeatedly for your mama. And he wept softly from his one eye, holding my hand tightly across the table, and I wept too. Never again, please. Dido's buried in Midrand here, just down the road from here. We organized his funeral, raised a lot of money from a whole lot of friends, but only one family member came. We had a whole lot of activists who knew him, who had fought with him in his court case, fought with him for him to see his court case won. And there were a couple of neighbors, friends from Orange Grove. About 15, 20 of us, we went down to Waterfall Cemetery, and we buried him in an unmarked grave. I remember going back after his burial and his brother saying to me, please can we just buy a plate or something that we can write his name so that I can take his family to the place where he is buried. And so I took a plate and I went to some artists, and I met this artist, his name's Valapi, and he helped me make the most beautiful tombstone. It took 3 days. All of her family and friends came around, and we all participated in making this tombstone. The Bible calls us to care for the oppressed and the stranger. The Lord watches over strangers. Ecclesiastes reminds us to look, there is the tear of the oppressed, with no one to comfort them. True liberation involves standing in solidarity with the oppressed and fighting against systems that perpetuate injustice. And so I want to ask you today, my new friends in Midrand, if you would please join me in the fight to make sure that everybody, whoever is a stranger in this place, in this town, in this province, in this country, is never treated in the way that my friend Dido was treated. My friend Dido is resting in your parish. His grave is at grave 32, section F, block N, at Waterfall Cemetery. You can visit it and you can see the beautiful tombstone. And when you do, will you please make a little promise inside yourself that you will fight for those who are oppressed. You will stand with those who are strangers. You will treat every Dido that you come across. You will bring him with dignity and respect. You will invite them into your home and you will say, welcome. You are welcome in my heart, like Jesus is welcome in my heart. I thank you.